Hello Bookish Fiends and welcome to another video. My name is Kathleen and today I'm going to be sharing with you all the books that I read in December, and yeah, let's jump into it. Okay, so before we dive into all of the books, I wanted to share just a few stats or give a little summary of this month, not this month, of December and my reading experience and journey for December. So the total books that I read in December was 15 books, which exceeded my goal of 14 by 1. The most read author, I actually didn't read any of my favorite authors or authors that I had read from before. I read primarily new to me authors that I've never read and experienced before, so that was fun. And my most read genre was mystery thriller, so I still was on my little mystery thriller kick, and those were the most read genre that I enjoyed in December. When it comes to my favorite book, so my favorite book was Legend Born by Tracy Deonn. I really enjoyed that book. It was something that I was highly anticipating reading, and I am so glad that I finally read it, and a little upset that I haven't read it earlier, but I really loved it. My least favorite book and the book in one of my DNFs for this month was A Court of Sugar and Spice by Rebecca F. Kinney. Rebecca F. Kinney, and yeah, I did not have a good time with this book, hence why I DNF'd it, and hence why I did not like it at all. So yeah, that was an experience. The longest book that I read this month was The Secret History by Donna Tartt, and the most memorable book that I read this month was Welcome to the Hunnam Dong Bookshop by Hoang Bo Rum. So yeah, those are just a little bit of an overview of the month, but let's go ahead and dive into the books and just yap a little bit about the books that I read in December. So one of the first books that I completed in December was The Myth of American Idealism by Noah Chomsky and Nathan J. Robinson. So this was my first time actually reading a kind of politically driven book about politics in the US government and foreign policy, and it was a different and very educating and, thought-provoking experience, as they in this book detailed and talked a lot about the issues and the grievances and the critiques that these two people had when it concerned to US foreign policy. They were pointing out how their actions actually were contradictory to their stance when it comes to democracy and actually helping and bettering other countries. And instead, it seems that their interests were what these countries could do for them, what they could get from them when it comes to trade, business, their natural resources. And that was pretty much their primary driver when it comes to kind of helping a country, working with the country, is because of those relations. In any country that sought to maybe focus primarily on their country's own interests and not primarily the interests of the US, that's when the conflict became a problem, and that's when there were issues. And it was a lot of information. It was very dense, and it was a lot to take in, and I had to take frequent breaks as I read this book because a lot of it was just like, I don't want to say it was heavy, but it was a lot to ponder and to think about. And there was a lot of cognitive dissonance on my part. And I don't know, it was a very thought-provoking, very enlightening read. And if you are wanting to learn more about politics, you're wanting to learn more about people who have critiques when it comes to US, when it comes to their politics and their governments and the foreign policy and all these different things, I think that this is definitely a good book to read to kind of get a better understanding of that and what, these people's critiques are when it comes to our government, and to just kind of educate yourself and to learn more about that. And I gave this book 5 stars because, again, I just felt they stated their purpose. They stated their intent with this book, and they kept on point with that. They navigated through each of their critiques. They shared a lot of their their thoughts. They provided detailed analysis of a lot of what the US government has done in the past with foreign policy, what they've done in the present. But yeah, it was a very enlightening book. Definitely think that if you want to learn more about politics and you're interested in that, you should give it a read. The next book that I read was I'll Be Gone for Christmas by Georgia K. Boone. And this book really just helped to get me into the holiday spirit. It is a fun little take on the movie The Holiday that has some LGBTQIA plus representation. And it was such a cute, adorable, and just fun holiday romance. So in this story, we follow Bee and Clover. Bee is living in San Francisco. She's working with her sister at their business, and she is just burnt out and just frustrated with the direction of her life. She's not having any satisfaction in what she's doing anymore. She feels like she doesn't know her sister Beth, and that they're at a crossroads and they don't have the same connection that they used to have. And she feels like a lot of that has to do with work getting in the way. She's tired of trying to live up to her parents', overwhelming expectations for her, and that she's constantly falling short of what they have dreamed and visualized for her. And she's just at her wit's end. And her friend suggests that she takes a break this holiday season and actually spends the holidays away from home and goes to another location and participate in a house swap through her app Vacate. And it's through there that she sees Clover's home, which she put up on Vacate. And she's like, absolutely, this sounds like the perfect escape. It's something that's different speed from what I'm used to. And she sends her a message to, do the house swap with her. Clover, who resides on a farm in Salem, Ohio, is also kind of at a crossroads in her life, where she is still in the process of grieving and accepting that her mother is gone, since her mother passed away a while ago. And she's also in the midst of trying to untangle her breakup with her fiance Knox, who they have been together since they were like teenagers, and this is a hard thing to reconcile since she feels like she's losing her friend, and it's just such a difficult kind of tense situation that she's involved in. And it's just, she also is at a point where she just needs a break. Also, she's feeling a lot of these feelings of uncertainty when it comes to her sexuality as well. Maybe uncertainty isn't the right word, but I think Clover is becoming and to realize that she's actually seriously interested in women and wants to date women, and that she's struggling with that since the last conversation she had with her mother. Her mother was showing disapproval for her sexuality, disapproval with her interest in women, and she just kind of felt bad about that, and it just kind of tore her apart. And since that was one of the last conversations she had with her mom, it's just something that's been on her mind and hasn't been resting easy on her. So she also needs some time to step away from her home, go to someplace different and experience something new, and kind of like heal and discover what next steps are available for her in her life. And I really just loved in this story how it really showed so much growth and expansion of these two characters after they did this house swap. And it delved a lot into them helping them to find their identity, to find out what they wanted in their life. For Bee, it helped her to realize that she felt like she had lost her creativity with writing, and that's why she was struggling so hard, and that maybe she needed to kind of rediscover that and to kind of play around with that and to enjoy that again. Clover, it was her really exploring her sexuality, being around people who were also bi or part of the LGBTQIA plus community, and seeing how they live their lives and how they live their truth and how they were loud and proud about their lifestyle. And that really helping her to kind of find her balance and to find her ground, and helping her to kind of come to terms with her sexuality and to accept that part of herself, and help her also kind of like build and create a new identity than the one that she was carrying for all these different years. And it was such a beautiful thing. The romance was cute. I preferred the romance between Clover and Beth as opposed to the romance between Bee and Knox. I don't know. There is something just so beautifully done about their romance, and it was so cute, so adorable, and I was definitely cheering and rooting for these two characters. And I don't know, all around the book was perfect. It gave a lot of good holiday vibes, both the city part of the holidays and the more country rural part of the holidays, and it was just an enjoyable book that I highly recommend if you didn't read it this holiday season, that you enjoy it for the next holiday season. I gave this 4 stars, and yeah, I would highly recommend it. The next book I read was In My Dreams I'll Hold a Knife by Ashley Winstead. And this was me kind of exploring the dark academia genre because I just wanted to see what it was all about. I was interested in seeing if this was a genre that I could be interested in or that I could like read more books from. And the timing for In My Dreams I'll Hold a Knife was probably off. And that's probably why I didn't have as good of an experience reading this as I would have. And it's because I kind of started reading this after I finished If We Were Villains, which was one of the first dark academia books that I read. And that to me was top tier. It was a top tier experience and a great introduction to the genre. And I loved it. Whereas for me, In My Dreams I Hold a Knife didn't meet that experience. Like, it was a whole different speed and a whole different tone and atmosphere and writing style. And while it was decent, while it was good, and the story was enjoyable, it just didn't have that thing like If We Were Villains did. It didn't hold a candle to that. And I think because that book ruined me for it, just really set the bar really high, and like In My Dreams I'll Hold a Knife did not reach that. So in this story, we follow Jessica Miller as she is going back for her college reunion. This is going to be the first time that she's actually met with her group of 6 friends following the incidents that happened with their friend Heather being murdered on campus. And it's so clear and so apparent that she has an axe to grind. She wants to prove herself and to show that she is just in such a better state, that she wants to make everyone jealous of her success, of her life. She wants everyone to just look at her in awe and literally fall at her feet. She has a lot of baggage when it comes to her friend group in the terms of her and her ex-boyfriend Mint, how they broke up, and she has an axe to grind there. She has another axe to grind with one of her closest friends, Caro, and her other friend. I think his name is Coop. But they're engaged to get married, and she is not happy about that since she kind of had a thing with Coop for a while. And there's just so much going on in that friendship group, that friendship dynamic. So many like secrets, betrayals, you know. Of course, there's all these different secrets. And of course, there is the fact that their friend Heather, like her murder, it was never solved. At the time, they suspected her boyfriend, which was also a member of the friend group, to be the culprit. And yeah, there was just not conclusive evidence to link him to the crime. But during this reunion, the brother of Heather is confronting this friend group because he is certain that one of the friends are responsible for Heather's death, and he is not going to rest until he uncovers who the murderer is. So this begins a chain of events where everyone is basically delving back into the past. All these secrets are being exposed amongst the friend group. All of these old hostilities, jealousies, rivalries, all of these things are coming to the surface. And there's so much that Jessica doesn't want to actually be revealed because she probably, out of all of them, I wouldn't say out of all of them, but she definitely has a lot of secrets that she's trying to hide and that she's trying to hold on to. And it's just one of those things where we just go one by one through the people in the friend group until we get to the actual killer. And in theory, like I said, this was completely fine. There was not really anything wrong with it. Aside from me, I really didn't like Jessica. I just found her to be, she just grated my nerves. And she just made no sense because I felt like she didn't know what she wanted. One minute she wanted Mint, the next minute she wanted Coop. It was just weird. It was too much for her. I found her to be team too much. But aside from that, the story itself was fine. It was well. I didn't predict the ending. I didn't uncover who the real killer was. So it got me there, and it was fine. It was a good story. It just, like I said, after reading If We Were Villains, it just didn't hit the mark. And if I hadn't read it before, or if I wouldn't have if I wouldn't have seen it pitched as a dark academia and just read it as like a mystery thriller or something, maybe I would have had a better experience and I would have rated it a little higher. But we just landed at a 3.5 and we'll call it a day. The next book was April Storm by Leah Meacham. So in this book, we follow Catherine Walker, who is a housewife who has a seemingly perfect life. She has a husband who is a very highly successful doctor. She has 2 kids that are just living their life. One is in college and one has settled down and is, I do believe he's a teacher. And she's just pretty happy and settled in her life. She has her routines. She has her passions and her projects and the things that she works on within her community. And like, it's just a basic normal life. That is until she comes to realize that she's actually being followed, that she is being stalked by this mysterious man, and she doesn't know who he is, what he wants, or if he intends to do her any harm. And she is seemingly frazzled. And she has this mysterious man reach out to her who wants to meet her because apparently she dropped a bracelet in the parking lot and he wants to return it to her. And he tells her that, yeah, you're being cased by a private investigator. I don't know what's going on in your life, if there's something that or someone that that wishes you harm or wishes you ill, but you have a PI following you. And this opens up the door to a whole world of suspicions and, worries and fear as she's trying to kind of uncover who it is that is following her, who it is that is trying to wish her harm and trying to stir trouble into her life. And at the same time, she has suspicions about her husband and his intentions when it comes to his fidelity. And it's just a lot going on in this story as far as the threat to her life that she feels, as well as what's going on with her marriage. This book was intriguing, but it didn't hit the mark for me. And I think it's because there was a lot of miscommunication present in this story that was pretty much the main driver or the main plot device being used to further some of the storylines forward. And I felt that was completely unnecessary for this story. It wasn't really needed at all. And yeah, I didn't really appreciate that. I also didn't appreciate kind of this weird romantic plot line. I thought that it wasn't something that was needed in this story either. I thought that was just thrown in to cause more drama, or kind of it just wasn't necessary. And I felt that if those 2 things had been taken out or had been written better, it could have improved the story for me. So I just settled on a 3.5 because again, this was intriguing. I found it interesting and I did enjoy reading it. It's just those 2 things really didn't work for me. So the next book that I read was The Blue Hour by Paula Hawkins. And this was another kind of mid book for me. The first half of December, I had a couple of good ones, and then I had a string of really mid basic books. And I just found this book to be kind of mid and to be kind of basic. Now, in this story, we are following this art gallery who is carrying exclusively the artworks of this famous author named Vanessa who passed away a while ago. And they're supposed to receive all of the art that she created so that they can display it at their gallery. However, the person that has been left or was bestowed the responsibility of being her, what is it that you call it? I can't think of the name, but she's a person who was left in charge of her estate. and that is Grace. She is the one who lives in the house that is on Eris Island and who is in charge of all of that. And there is this dispute between the two that they have not received all of the art that was created by Vanessa and was promised to the gallery. And they have been going back and forth with these disputes as to them getting the art that they were promised in her will. And this leads them to having a person being sent to Eris Island to try to talk with her, to reason with her, and ask her, like, can you look for this artwork? Like, have you found it? This is not matching up to the list of art that we're supposed to get. Is there some way that we can work together to solve this issue? But there are some deeper secrets and some deeper things that are going on with Grace and going on Eris Island. And much of this is what is rounded up or is kind of making up this story and giving it this foreboding kind of, like, I don't want to say bleak, but this kind of dark overture. And it was interesting. I love the atmosphere. The writing was well done. I love the vibe of it. I love the mystery of it. There was just, again, a couple of things that I could have done without. There were, when it comes to Grace's character, she is described as this ugly, fat, gross kind of woman. And while I'm not saying that everyone has to be written or talked about as like them being attractive, I just felt that it was a bit overkill and that it came across as a little bit of body shaming and fat phobic. Especially when there was this one scene where this character, he was going to meet her at the house and talk to her about the art that they were supposed to receive. And his whole description of her, his whole demeanor towards her, because he'd never met her before, changed when he saw her appearance and he saw her as not like attractive and he saw her as having, more curvy or more overweight or not this slim, thin build. And it was like his respect and his demeanor towards her shifted and changed. And he just saw her as this kind of problematic, sad, pathetic person. And I did not like that. That just rubbed me the wrong way. You can write a character and make them seem oddball or weird or strange without body shaming and without being fat phobic. That was necessary. There was another scene where there was apparently something where they thought that someone had broken into the house. And she accidentally rubbed his body and he recoiled in horror because he felt her flesh and he felt like her folds and it disgusted him. And I felt that, again, that is not necessary for this overall story or this plot that we're trying to work through when it comes to this character. I just felt it was not necessary or needed for the story, and that just rubbed me the wrong way. But other than that, the story was well done. I love the ending, and I think that this is one of those stories that has an ending that's going to be hit or miss, where some people are going to like it and some people are not going to like it. But after I finished it and after I thought about it, I felt like the ending was really, really appropriate for the overall story, for the vibe, and for the atmosphere. And even though it was kind of sad and very melancholic, again, I just thought it fit with the overall vibe of the story, and it was something that you don't see coming. And I enjoyed that aspect of the book, but I did give it a 3.5 stars. The next book that I finished in my dark academia, discovery was The Secret History by Donna Tartt. And this book was chef's kiss. It was everything that I am coming to see and appreciate and enjoy and desire when it comes to the dark academia genre. And words fail to adequately describe this book. It is definitely something that is a slow burn. It's slow paced, and there's intention taken in building these characters and developing this story and structuring this plot and how everything is flowed and just how everything goes and builds on top of each other. And it's very character driven, And we dig really deep into these characters, like their thoughts, who they are, their machinations, their desires, what makes them who they are, why they're so problematic in so many different ways, like calling into question, like the way that they see themselves, the way that they engage with the world. And it was just so very, very, very interesting. And in essence, the story is about Richard Papin. He is not really satisfied with his life. He does not like his family. He feels like they hinder him from pursuing and being the great person that he is desiring to be and to become. And because of that, because of their differences, because they just don't get along and they butt heads, he decides to transfer to a completely different college far away from his home and to seek, studying English, or was it English? I think it was English. He wants to study English and kind of like seek his life and that, and not try to follow the course of what he was normally actually doing, which was trying to become a doctor. So he does this, makes this big life-altering decision in the midst of his college career. And as soon as he gets to this college, he discovers that there is this professor who is kind of quirky and kind of interesting and off the cuff. And he only takes on a small number of students to take his courses, to take his classes with him. And that he kind of monopolizes their whole course load, and he manipulates their schedule so that they're mostly taking their classes and learning from him, and that he is in charge of the classics department, I guess you could call it. And when he hears this, he is immediately intrigued, and he immediately wants to belong to this group. He wants to take this man's classes. He, despite everyone saying that he's not taking any new students, despite even the professor telling him he's not going to take him on as a new student, he is adamant in taking his courses and in learning from this professor. And through some finagling, he eventually gets into his class and is beginning to take courses with him. And it's through them that he meets these group of people who are taking his courses, and they kind of form this strange kind of friendship. And it's through that a lot of things kind of happen. A lot of things kind of happen in this friend group, as they kind of, in a way, they're not really nice people. They're not the best of people. They're very problematic. They're very elitist. They tend to think higher of themselves because they're study philosophy, and they study literature, and they study Greek, and they speak to each other in Greek. And it's just, they kind of, they're pretentious. And he is trying so desperately to belong to this group and to fit into these people and to just kind of like have them as friends. And it's just interesting to me in this story, the lengths that Richard would go to kind of hide or omit his actual life history, who he was, how it came to be, the fact that he doesn't come from money like these people, and that he is just from a working class family, and how he goes to put on these airs just to impress these people so that he could be a part of this group. And not even just that, the lengths that he would go to be a part of this group, to show his support and his loyalty to these people. It is very, very interesting as the story progresses and as it just ensues to outright madness. And you see how their morality, their sense of decorum and their conduct, how it quickly slips into insanity, and how they can justify a lot of the things that they do with a very plain, calm face, as if it's completely and totally okay. And it's such a very interesting story. And for me, when I read this, the thing that really stood out to me the most was Richard Papin, and the person that I probably had the most problem with was Richard Papin, because again, I feel like he became a party to what they were doing, mostly because of his desire to belong to these group of people that desperately. And his desire to belong took him down a very dark path that will forever change him, and that did forever change him. And that was the part of the story that really interested me and that I really honed in on, was watching how Richard himself changed throughout this story, and how his character arc was so very interesting, and how he became in the end. It was all very interesting to me. I love this story. I can't think of enough ways to describe how amazing it is. I would be here for days talking about the various different themes present in this story, but let's just say that it was amazing. I enjoyed it. 5 fabulous stars. It was perfection. The next book that I read was The Wedding People by Alison Espach, and this was a very poignant story. So in this story, we follow Phoebe as she is set to have the best day of her life at this expensive, outrageous hotel. She's gonna order in this very expensive, flamboyant meal and just make it the best day ever. Because Phoebe has this plan that she is going to enact, and it's this perfect plan that she has just kind of like thought out to a T, and nothing is going to get in her way. At least that's what she thinks, until she arrives at the hotel and she discovers that a wedding is going to be held at that hotel, and they're going to have a week-long event there, and that she wasn't even supposed to get a reservation there. That it just so happened that slipped through the cracks and she was able to get a reservation. And she tries to go to her room to like enact her plan, and she finds out that there's not going to be any room service because of the wedding, and that they're doing everything to cater to the wedding party and not necessarily to just outside guests. So in the elevator, Phoebe meets the bride, and they form this very strange friendship where they are coming to each other and they're revealing all of these dark secrets, all of these thoughts. She's having this bride kind of like really look to her for guidance and for support, and this little friendship ensues, and Phoebe becomes swept into this wedding and becomes a part of this wedding, and has these interactions with these people, and it really just changes and alters her plan. It changes and alters her life, and it changes herself, and we see her as she goes on this journey of discovery, of rediscovering her identity, finding out who she is, finding out what's next in her life, what her future plans will be, and kind of reconcile with her very sad and traumatic past so that she can heal from this and move forward into the future confident and full of hope. And this was such a very good story of that, like I just said, because of those reasons. We get to see Phoebe kind of transform and grow right before your eyes. You see her kind of at her lowest of lows when we start this story, and then we see her at her highest of highs at the end of the story, and how she has just not only started her healing journey and is stepping into her future confident and full of hope, but how she has impacted the people that she met, the wedding people, as so to speak, that she has met over this week, and how she has kind of like changed the course of their life and had a lasting impact on these people in very small and seemingly insignificant ways that led to very powerful truths and revelations. And this was a wonderful story. I gave it 4 fabulous stars, and yeah, it was terrific. Next, I read Don't Let the Forest In by C.G. Drews, and this story was so heartbreakingly beautiful. It was such a delicious gothic young adult horror that, you know, read like a very grim, dark fairy tale, and it was the prose. It was so beautiful. I was pulling quote after quote after quote from this book because it was just so magnificent. So in this story, we follow Andrew. He is returning back to school after a tumultuous last year, and he is anxious to see his friend Thomas because he hasn't spoken to him or communicated with him over the summer break. And he has some very intense feelings for his friend Thomas. And these feelings are kind of hard for him to decipher because in a way he is struggling with his sexual identity, struggling to find out like what his sexuality is, what he even wants with Thomas, what his boundaries are. He's struggling to just kind of realize his identity in that area. And he's also really scared of rejection. He's scared of things changing between him and Thomas. He's scared of Thomas not accepting him or wanting to be with him or having the same feelings and reciprocating what he feels. And he is just a bundle of anxiety and a bundle of nerves as he and his twin sister Dove are returning back to school for the school year. But as soon as he runs into Thomas, he discovers that Thomas has some troubles of his own as his parents have been mysteriously attacked and killed, and they are suspecting of Thomas of having something to do with this. And he is adamant that he does not, and it's just a very concerning time for him, and he is scared for him, and he is concerned about what's going to happen because of all these things that are happening with his family and all this conflict that's going on. It's later that Thomas confesses to him about what's truly going on, and that it would appear that the monsters he's created in his drawings are coming to life, and that they're attacking him, and that they actually attacked his parents. And he says that they're actually present on the school as well, and that they're in the woods that they're not supposed to go into and causing a lot of havoc. And they work together to try to stop these monsters from coming onto the school grounds and attacking innocent people. And while they're battling the monsters, they're also battling each other and the secrets and the kind of dark underlying issues that are existing between them that Andrew is not wanting to confront and Andrew is not wanting to kind of address with him. Anytime that Thomas tries to bring it up, tries to talk to him about it, he shuts down and he has panic attacks and his anxiety overtakes him. So it's just a really turbulent, emotional story, based primarily on Andrew's feelings, his emotions, his anxiety, his fears, his insecurities. And it's just such a heartbreaking story because the angst that exists between Andrew and Thomas is so palpable. You can literally taste it. It's so present for you to just reach out and touch it. It's so real. Again, all of the things that they're just going through, all of the horrors that they're witnessing with these monsters attacking, it's just so, the fear and the anxiety was so real as I read this book. And my heart was breaking in 1,000 pieces every time I turned the page, but I couldn't stop reading it. And I was so absorbed with this story. I was so absorbed in wanting to see how everything played out between Andrew and Thomas with the monsters, all of it. And the ending completely took me by surprise, and I should have seen it. I should have recognized it, but I didn't, and it broke my heart. Like, this story really broke my heart. And it has an ending. It's another book with an ending that people may not go for. It is a very wild ending, but I have come, after many tears, to appreciate it for what it is and to kind of accept it for what it is and draw my own conclusions. And yeah, I gave this story 5 fabulous stars because it was so amazing, made me feel all the emotions, and yeah, I really loved it. Next, I read The Last Tale of the Flower Bride by Roshani Chokshi, and this was another amazing story. It had so many, it read like a fairy tale, like an adult gothic fairy tale. It was so beautiful. The prose was amazing. It's another book that I was constantly pulling quotes from because it was just so, the writing was so amazing. And the story itself is kind of strange. It's kind of weird, and it's more of a character-driven story with a very loose plot. as we are introduced to this man that is known as the bridegroom, who falls madly in love with this enigmatic woman named Indigo, and they get married and they're living this life, but she just has one request, and that request is that he doesn't pursue or doesn't try to look into her past or learn anything about her, that he just takes her as she is right now in the flesh, and they move forward. And he agrees to this, and he is fine with this in the beginning. But there are a lot of little tears, a lot of little issues, a lot of friction that begins to happen in their marriage, and he begins to wonder exactly what it is about this woman. How does she become the way that she is now? And after a family event happens and they go back to her hometown, he meets her aunt who is dying, and she basically tells him, the woman that you're married to is not what she seems. You should do some digging and uncover the truth about who she really is and what really is going on, because there's more than meets the eye. Ask her about Asia. Ask her about what happened with her. And he begins to go on this hunt for the truth of her past. And this opens a door to all of these different things coming to light. We learn about her friendship with Asia. We learn about their dynamic, and as they grew up together, the best of friends, and how their friendship, as they got older, began to crumble and disintegrate and tear apart. And we see all of this through Asia's eyes as well. And we see as the man, the bridegroom, is kind of uncovering the truth about who she is and how it is threatening his marriage and tearing them apart. But he can't stop because he is so hell-bent on this idea that if he uncovers his truth, he can finally free her from her past, and she will be able to actually be present and step into her future. And this is such a beautiful story about love, about the power of love, about marriage, about, kind of like about youth, and about how it is when you're young, you are terrified of growing up, how you kind of live in this illusion that nothing can touch you, nothing can harm you, and that you kind of want to keep the real world away because you want to be forever young. You want to be forever irresponsible and not having to have any responsibility, and you're just high on that feeling, that power that being young and being beautiful affords you, and kind of wanting to be stuck in that world. And it explores so many different things in the story. It was amazing. I really loved it. I am so glad that I took a chance and just picked it up at the library. And yeah, it was 5 fabulous stars. The next book that I read is Legendborn by Tracy Deonn, and I'm so glad that I finally read this book because I've had it on my TBR for a very long time. I don't know why I haven't read it. I don't know why I didn't pick it up, but I'm so glad that I picked it up and that I read it now because this is so amazing. And I must say that for a young adult fantasy novel, the world building in this was so intricate. It was so beautiful. It was so well done. The magic system was amazing. The layers of this story, the character development in this story, it was just so magnificent. Tracy Deonn is an amazing writer to have crafted such a beautiful and intricate world as she did. And this is stunning. So in Legendborn, we are following Bree Matthews, who, following her mother's accident, where she loses her in this accident, she is trying to reconcile with her grief, and she is trying to kind of like move forward with her life and wants to escape everything and anything that reminds her of her mother. So she participates in this high school student program, UNC Chapel Hill, and it is there that she discovers demons and that they fight. And she sees a demon fight, and it just alters everything for her. And once she uncovers this truth, she also uncovers that there is a secret society of Legendborn who basically are fighting these demons and preventing them from wreaking havoc on Earth and harming humans. Now, because of her knowledge of this, and she's not supposed to know this, They try to mesmer her or basically erase her memories of all that she saw when it comes to these demons fighting, but this fails and it doesn't work. So she still knows of this secret society. She knows of these demons existing, and them trying to erase her memory triggers another memory that she has of when her mom died when they were at the hospital. And she is like, wait, someone actually tried to wipe my memory before, and maybe all of this that's happening has something to do with my mom's accident. Maybe it wasn't really an accident that killed her. So she is now on this quest to uncover the truth about her mother's death and what really happened. And she enlists the help of her student guide, Nick, who is once was a Legendborn. He's an exiled Legendborn now. And she convinces him to come back and to join the Legendborn group and to help her become an initiate or a page, I do believe that is, so that she can infiltrate these ranks and learn about what happened to her mother and who was responsible for her death. But throughout this journey, she discovers and uncovers so many different things about herself, about her lineage, about the Legendborn, about Nick, about all of these different people. And it's really a journey of discovery. It's really a journey of her kind of coming to terms with her mother's death and really, really working through her grief and accepting that her mother is no longer here. And it's also a journey of uncovering her legacy and who she is and coming to terms and accepting that and navigating that and what that means for her future as well. This was such an amazing book. It was so well written, so well done. 5 fabulous stars. I cannot wait to read the next installment of this book, and I definitely cannot wait for Oathbound to come out. Again, this is such a beautiful and amazing series, and I'm just so glad for it. The next book I read was The Seventh Veil of Salome by Silvia Moreno Garcia, and this book was good too. It was fine. It was another mid book for me. So in The Seventh Veil of Salome, we follow Vera, who is this Mexican actress who was picked to be the lead in this basically biblical epic, which is The Seventh Veil of Salome. And she went out against this one woman named Nancy who wanted and was vying for this role, but obviously just didn't have that je ne sais quoi. And she becomes bitter and enraged that she lost out to a Mexican woman and is taking issue with this. And in this story, we kind of see the unfolding plot surrounding both Vera and Nancy and kind of what happens to these women and between these women because of this role, because of this movie, because of the jealousies and the competition between them, which is really one-sided. But we kind of see the fallout of what happens because of that. And we also get to see the story of Salome herself, and we get to kind of have a voice, and we get a point of view and a story of this epic woman who is considered to be this temptress. We kind of get her voice and her say and her own story, and we get to see that unfold as well. And this was a very interesting story. I feel like it was well structured. It was well written. I appreciated that we give Salome a voice, and we kind of get her story through her eyes and through her experience. And I also enjoy seeing the 1950s Hollywood glamour and just the environment of that, and how it was so rife with racism and bigotry and misogyny when it came to their diverse actors and how they were treated, how they were marketed, you know, how they were talked to, how they were objectified, and, you know, how other white actors and actresses treated them as if they were less than and they were disposable, or they were an inconvenience, or they were, you know, taking things from them. It was a very interesting story. I love to see all these different dynamics play out, and it was also kind of a sad story when you think about how everything ended and everything wrapped up in the end. But again, I enjoyed my time. I enjoyed reading it, and I gave it 3.5 stars. It just didn't hit me emotionally, but I did actually appreciate and enjoy this story, and I'm looking forward to reading more from Silvia Moreno Garcia in the future. The next book that I read was Welcome to the Hanamdong Bookshop by Hoang Bo Rheum. I don't know if I'm saying the last name right, but this was such an inspirational and impactful story, and literally when I say that this story changed the trajectory of my life, it really, really did. We follow Young Ju as she is opening up this bookshop. She wants to be the best bookshop owner that she can be. She wants to really have an impact in her community. She wants to spread the love and the joy of reading to others in the community and really make it something that's accessible and that's enjoyable for other people to not just maybe be entertained by, but to also to learn something, to grow and to become better people. And we see just the daily comings and goings of her as she's working to build and grow her bookshop. We also see a lot of the daily lives of the people that work at the bookshop and the cafe. We also see a lot more of the people that frequent the bookshop and how they're going with their life, their kind of concept and mindset and idea towards life itself. And this is such an amazing book because it's a slice of life story. So if you don't like slice of life stories, you don't really like literary fiction, you're not gonna like this. But if you love cozy slice of life stories that kind of teach you and talk with you a lot about mindset, about the kind of meaning and purpose of life, and discovering yourself, discovering your identity, kind of stepping into something new and pursuing a new path with your life, then you're really going to enjoy this book, because I did. I really appreciated these elements, these conversations that they were having, even about like work-life balance and how important and essential that was. The conversations they had about burnout, when it comes to experiencing burnout, when you are trying to kind of run on this wheel of trying to constantly achieve and to grow and to be successful, and how at the end of the day, you sacrifice so much to do this and you encounter anxiety, you encounter burnout, and you become unhappy with your job, with what you're doing, with where you are in your life, and how it's so essential to take a step back and to focus on what brings you joy, to really focus and prioritize peace. And we see this as a recurrent theme with a lot of people in this story. And also another issue that we see frequently in this story is there are some characters that are even questioning, what's the point of it all? What's the point of taking yourself through college and working so hard and getting all this education if when you go to enter into the job force, it's still not enough? Like, you don't have really a true advantage. You're not really being hired. You're not really being taken seriously or getting these high paying jobs and becoming part of that world, and how it just feels kind of empty. And for me, I felt like this book really focused and centered on finding joy in your life by whatever means makes you happy and makes you find peace, and to really focus on work-life balance and not letting life be all about career and about work and about success and about achieving things, but to also let it be about your personal pursuits, your passions, the things that you accomplish outside of your career. Those things are also important as well when it comes to your friends and your family, and just doing things that spark joy. And it was such an amazing book, and it really reignited me, I think, a lot with my past dreams and passions that I kind of gave up on and that I kind of laid to the wayside. And this really just jolted me. It reacquainted me with that part of myself to kind of really consider and to shift my mindset towards, hey, my dreams and my passions are important, and it's great for me to pursue these things and to live my life and to give it a go, because who knows what can happen? Who knows what will become of this? And it also helped me to realize that I need to practice gratitude, and I need to practice, balance, and practice seeking peace and being present and savoring and romanticizing my life. And it just really blew my mind wide open, and it really touched my heart. it's a really a book that really altered my mindset and my brain chemistry in such a good and positive way. Like literally a lot of the intentions and goals that I have set for this new year is because I read this book and it inspired me to really take a look at my life and to really kind of make adjustments and kind of shift the trajectory that I want to go forward with. So I love this book so dearly. And actually it's my favorite book of December. It was my favorite book of the month. And yeah, I highly recommend this book if you really want something that's going to inspire you, motivate you, and that is going to just give you this cozy, warm, a hug of a feeling. And yeah, it was 5 fabulous stars. I loved it. The final book that I read this month was A Song to Drown Rivers by Anne Liang. And this book was it was another heartfelt, I don't want to say it was heartfelt. No, it was not. It was heartbreaking. It was a heartbreaking book. And I loved every single bit of how it crushed and destroyed my heart. I loved it. It was beautiful. It was another book that was written kind of like in this fairy tale-esque style, and it was very beautiful. The prose was magnificent. So in A Song to Drown Rivers, we follow Zishi. She is basically considered to be one of the most beautiful women in the world. And she is being sought after because the Yu have a plan to overthrow the Wu, and they want to use her to become the king's concubine so that she can whisper in his ear all these different things. And basically all of that will culminate into the Yu being able to launch a secret attack against the Wu so they could overthrow their kingdom and take power over the land, because they have many issues with the Wu dynasty, with their barbarism, their just harsh, evil reign, and how they treat the people and demean them and cause them harm. And they want to put an end to that and help to restore just peace and prosperity back to the citizens. And she is a crucial part of this plan. So she goes away with family who is going to teach her how to be a lady, how to be an essential concubine in the royal court. And he trains her on all these different things. And she learns all these things. She excels in these lessons. And in the midst of that, they do have some feelings for each other that develop and that grow, but they don't really go anywhere because they know that it's forbidden and that she is promised for this mission. So she does go to the royal court. She is going apart and doing her mission and basically working very hard to aid in or do her part in this plan to overthrow and to put an end to the evil Wu dynasty. And it's such an amazing story. I felt like Zishi was such a tragic character because there's just something so sad about her from the very beginning. There was just something so melancholic, so tender, so sad, and so poignant about her. And I don't know, her story was just so compelling to me. I really loved her. I thought that she was so smart. She was so witty. She was a quick thinker, and she was excellent at what she was trained to do. And I loved her story. I thought she was amazing. And yeah, I don't know. It just really won me over. I love the political machinations that were also involved in this story and how this political intrigue worked when it comes to the different things. And though it didn't turn out anyway, and not like I was expecting, I thought it was going to go one way and it didn't go that way. And it was the ending was really hard for me. It was really heartbreaking, but it was so, at the same time, perfect for this story. And after I finished it, I realized that it was actually a retelling. And I can't speak to the original, if it matches with the original or not, but I just know the impact that reading this had on me, and it was just such a moving, piece of work, and I really enjoyed it, and I gave it 5 fabulous stars. So those were all the books that I read in December, and a lot of my stats for the month as well. Overall, I had a very good reading month. I had over 8 5-star reads. I found like a book that not only for me was the book of the month, but potentially is the book of the year. And it was an amazing reading month, amazing time to be alive. And on that note, I'm gonna wrap up this video, and I will see you in the next one. Happy reading, and I'll see you next time. Bye.